one of the things that's happened in our world in general is our politics is broken. And what succeeds in broken politics is special interests. So let's look at the federal government for a second. So the Congress of the United States has largely been broken for decades. It's been completely unable, in my judgment, to do the basic things it should have done in healthcare and environmental protection and dealing with climate and immigration, so many areas, because of terrible dysfunction and hyperpartisanship. And in that environment, three things happen. The first thing that happens is the courts become too important. Right? The Supreme Court in the United States of America has actually, in many ways, become too important. It's always been incredibly important. It's right, one of our three branches of government is the judicial branch. But in a way, a few years ago, the Supreme Court of the United States was asked to opine as to whether greenhouse gases are covered under the Clean Air Act. And we should be asking ourselves a question: why is the Supreme Court deciding that? Why is 9 unelected individuals deciding something that is clearly in the purview of the legislative branch of the United States of America? In other words, it's the Congress that should be deciding what you do with greenhouse gases, not the Supreme Court trying to figure out if it fits under a law that was passed in the 70s. But that's an example of how broken our Congress is. Similarly, the executive branch of the United States of America, the presidency, has become too important through executive authority. And that's because we have a broken Congress. And we have a broken Congress because it's partisan, and all it does is fight, and it engages in kind of political games all the time, and it doesn't put the needs of its citizens first. And a president, I think, could change that. But it also allows there to be a lot of things done through things like rulemaking, et cetera, that aren't done in the light of day, that aren't done through a transparent legislative process. I mean, when the Congress of the United States is actually legislating, it's very transparent. You know what Representative Pappas and Custer are doing, right, when they're working on environmental bills, because it's all public. But when people go in and make through executive action and just rules, et cetera, you know, like the EPA, it's been gutting so many things under this, what I view, corrupt leadership that it's had. It's not particularly transparent. And it allows special interests to actually do things to bend the will of our government away from the needs of people and towards their own needs. And that's really, in many ways, how this has happened, right? We haven't done our job. Our most fundamental job as people have the privilege of serving is to get up every day and do things that make a difference in the lives of our citizens. And we haven't done that. And the cost of doing nothing is not nothing. We've paid a huge price as a country because the legislative process has been broken through bad leadership. And that's allowed special interests, including corporate special interests, to actually do things for their own benefit, including suppress important protections to our natural world and to our public health for their own self-interest. And so that's how this has happened in a way, right? Because we've had a broken government, because representative democracy doesn't work, on issue after issue where the American people broadly support action, we see gridlock. And in that kind of an environment, special interests thrive. The special interests often care about narrow, micro issues that affect them that can be tweaked through the regulatory process, right? And by neutering regulatory agencies, or not funding them, or changing standards, or deciding not to enforce things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what's really happened. It's happened at the state level, and it's happened at the federal level.